Hi, Kalpun Piso here. Be cut. I'm going to talk today about Dies Sanguines, where Christianity got his Good Friday at Easter from. It all started right here. In the city, the holy city of Rome, after the murder and sacrifice of the Lord and Saviour, Gaius Iulius Caesar, son of Venus, Pater Patriae, father of the country, Holy Father, great carpenter, Pontifex Maximus, son of Mars, etc., etc. That's where the whole thing started, after his sacrifice. Gave the blood for his people. 2074 years ago, a terrible tragedy happened. 15th of March. The god Iulius Caesar, son of Venus and Mars, Pater Patriae, great builder of bridges, Pontifex Maximus, Archiereus Megistus, father of the country, the Saviour, the man that was famous for his clementia cesaris, in other words, his clemency, forgiving the enemy, turning the other cheek. He was killed. He was sacrificed. 23 stab wounds. Archaeology tells us, and all the data in history, that Iulius Caesar truly existed. Here he is in a monument in Rome, Divus Sandaliaris, this altar of the god Iulius Caesar. He's holding a crook. On the right side is his son of God, the future Emperor Augustus, and a chicken is an animal used by the augurs to predict the future events to come. If the chicken fed, if he eat, if he didn't peck, if he come from the right, he come from the left, and all that's to predict the future. The side of the altar, of the Divus Sandaliaris, you can see an angel. There is actually a winged lady representing victory, giving an offering to a tropaeum, which is a cross structure that is a symbol of the spoils of wars and victory. Eventually, Iulius Caesar's his wax image will be put on a cross, wearing his crown of thorns. This is a historical fact. They don't say cross, they say tropaeum, or they say mechani. This is a painting found in the city of Pompeii depicting the god Aeneas, Iulius Caesar, the god Iulius Caesar, descendant from Aeneas. He is carrying a tropaeum, which is a cross-shaped device to put the armor and the symbols of the gods. That's what also banners come from. They're put on cross type of structure. All the banners, even today, they're depicted this way. This, you think, will be a Catholic painting? No, this is also depicting God Aeneas helping these people cross. That's what the Catholics got their San Anthony and different icons from. There's a coin of the god Iulius Caesar showing what a tropaeum looks like. You see there's a shape of a cross and two figures underneath the vanquished enemy, and which is obvious a cross. Can anyone imagine the impact 2074 years ago? The killing of a god. There were many, many different gods in Rome, many priests to different gods, but the number one god, the person that truly existed, gave the blood for his people, was the god Iulius Caesar. Imagine he being killed in such a manner. During his funeral, his body was placed, and this is history, this is a fact, his body was placed in a miniature altar of Venus, a platform, a bier. But on a side, in front of what is called the Capitolium now, in that area there, was placed a big cross, which they call it mechani. That's what they put. They put the wax image of the god with the 23 stab wounds being rotated and displayed for everybody to see and feel sorry for this God that did so much for the people. The first person that went over there in attendance to this funeral were the Jews, the Christi. They loved Julius Caesar. He had protected them. And they were the first one. They considered Julius Caesar, the god Julius Caesar, an honorary son of David. He was the great carpenter in the sky. The archaeological evidence is irrefutable. God Julius Caesar was killed the 20th of July, the same year, 2 months after his death. A triumvir that was the son of God Augustus. Mark Antony was in Egypt with Cleopatra. And Mark Antony, that was a priest of Julius Caesar, of the god Julius Caesar, decided to give a funeral games to Julius Caesar and his mother, Venus, Genetrix. Venus, the life giver. The 20th of July, when the game started of the year 44, a comet appeared in the daytime, which it would last 10 days. There is irrefutable data this actually happened by many historians, and they are compiled in this book written by Ramsey and Licht that tell us exactly what people thought of the time. There is many eyewitnesses of this event. When this happened, the astute, incredibly smart son of God, Augustus, he was not emperor yet. Remember, he was just the son of God. He said, this is proof of the resurrection. Our Holy Father and Saviour, Gaius Julius Caesar, the Pares Patriae, that is now in heaven, protecting all of us. He has resurrected. Incredibly enough, as this book clearly shows, and this evidence, that the comet, by coincidence, appeared, it didn't have a tail, and appeared next to Venus. How convenient. Eventually the comet and Venus will mutate and appear just like a star of Caesar. That's what the Star of Bethlehem, the Star of David, and the Islamic star with the crescent moon comes from. We must realize that when this happened, that's what the Jews were mourning the god Julius Caesar. And also Herod was the priest, the high priest and king of the Jews. He was in control of the dogma and he loved Julius Caesar. That's what Passover or Pascha comes from. It occurred at the same date. The Jews and everybody that loved the god Julius Caesar would mourn and observe the day of his sacrifice, the day of blood, Dies Sanguines. In the year 31 BCE, Augustus became sole ruler of the Roman Empire after the defeat of Mark Antony, the priest of Julius Caesar, at the Battle of Actium. 2 years later, the year 29 BCE, he built a temple to the god Julius Caesar, and there were buildings to this god all over the empire. Here it is. And you can see right in there is the comet of Julius Caesar. So can you imagine how he would be depicted and worshipped in the temple? I think he would be hanging on a cross. This denarius minted by Augustus shows the resurrection of Divus Iulius of Julius Caesar. Notice the angel, and notice him coming from the flames because he was cremated, and the angel ascending to heaven. Now the comet of 44 BCE, clearly, what a coincidence. It was a welcome gift to Augustus, which he can actually prove to the people that Julius Caesar had resurrected. This sacrifice of Caesar's day was also observed blended with different gods of the empire that also had sacrifice with the blood, like Attis, the sacrifice of Attis. 400 years later, the Catholic Church will turn the whole thing, mutate it into Good Friday and a resurrection, which never happened. The wax image of the god Caesar displayed on a cross became the sacrifice Jesus. God Caesar mutated into Jesus, and Easter is his resurrection. Archaeological evidence is there for all to see.